Okay, so good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. My name is Lindsay Kennedy Wood. I have begun this company called All for Learning. So my email is at the bottom there at info@allforlearning.com.au. Today, you're here to look at visual supports, and we're going to look at understanding the importance of visual supports for every child. And we're going to look at why they are important and the different visual supports that we can put in place. Now, you should have received an email that had the link to some of the supports that we have. Otherwise, there's plenty of places that you can be searching for some of these to implement in your child or your client's life. So I'll start with who am I? So first and foremost, I'm a mother and a wife to my beautiful family, but right behind that's my passion for all children to be given the best chance at life. And we know that education is one cornerstone of that, and one where many of our children are still being failed. I've been a teacher for over 15 years, and I have my Bachelor and Masters of Education, and I will be studying my doctorate next year in 2022. I've worked as a classroom teacher, a special needs teacher, and most recently as an education consultant for children with a disability. I guess my overall dream and hope is that I want to partner with parents and schools and the child themselves to help them see what really truly is possible, how we can help children to advocate for themselves, how we can help families to advocate for their child and create lasting learning to create success for their future and beyond. So today we're going to be looking at visual support. So let's start by thinking about, well, what is a visual support? So a visual support is static information that's given to us in a visual form. So it can be photographs, it can be pictures, it can be cartoons. And when we look at visual supports, we actually use them all the time in society. So if I showed you some of these, we probably know what that one is. This one will tell us that we need first aid. There's traffic lights ahead. There's an exit, a toilet, and that the road is slippery. So if we are using visual supports all the time, and it's all around us when you actually stop and look, we are using visual supports constantly. So why aren't we using visual supports for our children and our students and our clients? Well, first of all, I think it's important to understand why we would want to use visual supports and why they are important to all children. Now, I use them with my children all the time. I use them in the classroom. I use them with other people's children and that type of thing. When I'm doing any sort of client work, I use visuals as well. So, but why are they important? So they're important because they provide that static information that the child can refer back to. So they're not having to keep it all within their head. They're able to refer back to it. So in a classroom, for instance, if you are providing information, you might be saying something simple like go back to your desk, get your pencil, your glue, and your scissors. 30, 40, 50% of those children will only remember one of those facts. But if I put up the 3 visuals that they need to get, they can make their way back to their desk or make their way back to their bedroom, whatever you're doing, and refer back to the visual. So you'll see how I use visuals to help with that static information. It assists with communication. So many children struggle to understand communication, the comprehension of what's being said to them. They might be verbal, but they might not have that comprehension knowledge. They might not be verbal. They might be limited in their verbal capacity. So we want to give them as much help as we can to really be able to communicate with us and to help us to communicate with them. It provides that scaffold, so that static information, that's the scaffold, and the comprehension, so the understanding of what is needed to be done. In creating those visual supports and using them regularly and consistency, we're providing predictability and structure for that child. So they know what's coming, they know how to use it, and that's something that has to be consistently taught to them. And it's building that independence. So I believe all children should be given the opportunity to be fully independent and have the scaffolds to be stepped away with support so that they can be the best they can be. So we really want to build that independence and understanding through the understanding of the comprehension of what's being asked of them. And obviously it's going to reduce stress and the unpredictability for the child, but it's also going to reduce the stress for yourself, not having to repeat yourself time and time again. Have you looked at your visual? Remember to look at your visual, and that type of thing. So once they get used to it, they're going to be asking and going back to you less and less, well, in theory. All right, so what are some of the visuals that we're going to look at today? So today we're going to look at lots of different visuals. We're not going to look at them in huge depth. If you've got questions about each one in more depth, how you would actually use it in your area, say you're a therapist or something like that, you want some more specifics, that's absolutely okay. Shoot me an email. If you are a family, I'm more looking at the family sort of side of things today. So if you're a family, a lot of the things I'm showing you will be applicable to your area. If you're a teacher, obviously you're going to see how you can implement them into your surroundings as well. So today we're going to look at first next visuals, mini schedules, daily schedules, weekly schedules, monthly schedules, social narratives. We're going to look at choice boards, break cards, timers, home visuals, task cards, and communication. Now, choice boards, break cards, and timers are going to actually are really important when we're implementing the first next mini schedules and daily schedules visuals. But one of the most important visuals that is often overlooked is actually the break card, giving the child the ability to self-regulate themselves with the use of break cards. So we're actually going to start there because I do think it's one that's really underutilized and needs more airtime and to be more consistently utilized across the board. So when I'm talking about a break card, you're going to need break card according to the child that you have. So it might be your child needs a 1-minute break card, they might need a 5-minute break card, they might need a 10-minute break card, they might need multiples of these cards. So our break cards we do in lots of different styles so that they can be used across the board, across different situations and circumstances. So the break cards are really instrumental in teaching individuals to listen to their bodies and their emotions. So it's about that self-regulation. I'm starting to feel some feelings that I think I need to take a break from. So my stomach's starting to churn. I'm starting to clench my fists. I'm starting to feel a bit yucky in my body. Maybe I need to have a break. We're trying to teach the child, listen to your body, listen to when it might need a break card, listen to what you're starting to think, feel, and all the emotions that are going on. It's then creating that responsibility for their behavior. So obviously when you first implement it, you can't go, oh, you're responsible for your behavior now. But over time, as the child starts to understand what's happening to their body and understanding how to utilize a break card, you'll start to see them asking for that break, whether it be them handing you a card, whether it be them verbally asking you for a break, whatever your cue is for that break time is perfectly fine. But we want to create that responsibility for the behavior because it's going to flow on to other areas, so school, therapy sessions, play groups, other people's houses, doctors, surgeries, whatever it is that your child needs that break from. Shopping's a huge one where children need breaks. So we want to create that responsibility for their own behavior so that then they can understand the difference between behavior versus consequence. Because when they don't understand, I'm just acting because my body's telling me to. Well, actually, I've given you a scaffold to be able to have that break type thing. So we want to build that ability to emotionally regulate, and we can individualize and personalize it. So the break can be something sensory, it can be just time out. We can do whatever we want. We can give them that choice through the choice boards, which we'll talk about later. And it's versatile and interchangeable in different situations. And you'll see that through this video here. So let me just... These are our break cards. We have a lot of different options with these. They come in, I need a minute, I need a break, I need 5 minutes, I need 10 minutes, with different sizes to make them more accessible in different situations, whether you're shopping, you might be at home, school. We also recommend a lanyard for children who might need multiple breaks so that they can grab one out. Break cards are great because they teach self-regulation to students, creating that responsibility for their own behaviours.
Now you can start with something like having 8 breaks within a session or 8 breaks within a certain time period, and then slowly wean them back to maybe only having 4 breaks or lowering the time that they get. So you might, instead of having 10 minutes, they might have a 5-minute break, and then you might move down to the minute break. Slowly trying to get them to recognize when they need to have a break, but not only that, reducing the amount of time that they are away from a certain activity or area.
So that was break cards. Now I would implement a timer into those as well, so that children understand when the break is over. So we want to make sure that we're, so some of our children, they take the literal response. So if we're saying you have a break, they might take that as a minute break. If we say 5 minutes, it needs to be 5 minutes, especially for our children who do take language literally. So we do want to make sure that we are using the correct break card for them. So we don't want to be saying you can have a break. Well, how long is that break? Is that break unending? Well, if we say 10 minutes, then you've got that defined time. We've got 10 minutes, let's set a timer. And then slowly trying to wean it back to less breaks, or being able to regulate themselves quicker and calm themselves down faster as well. Alrighty, so then we're moving on to choice boards. Now, choice boards are another great visual. And the reason that I really advocate for choice boards is that I believe that students and children and individuals should be given choice. And a lot of the time, a lot of their life can become dictated to them. We're going to do this, and then this, and then this, and then this. And they're actually not given the opportunity to, they're not given the opportunity to express choice or to have that choice, so that when situations come up where they are given choice, they might not know how to even just make a choice because they've never been given that opportunity. We also want them to have that choice so that it's more appealing to them and they're more likely to engage in the choice that they're given. So the reason, so when we're offering choice, I say 2 to 3 options. We don't want to overwhelm them with 7 options. We want to give them, 2 to 3 things that we're willing for them to play with. So we're not going to say, do you want to go to the local theme park? Do you want to go to the playground, or do you want to have a apple? They're not equal. So we've got to do things that are semi-equal that you're willing to do with that individual. So, going to a theme park is a whole day adventure. So it might be, do you want to go to a park? Do you want to go jump on the trampoline? Or do you want to do some painting or something like that? So the different things that you're comfortable with implementing and following through on. They encourage engagement and that sense of ownership. I've chosen what I want to do. I've got ownership over it, and I'm more likely to engage with it. So obviously, what I said, choices are decided by you and nothing that you are unwilling to follow through on. And you can personalize it to suit your child's interests, your client's interests, your student's interests. So for instance, if you have a child, which I do at the moment, who enjoys Minecraft, I might give choices around certain Minecraft things. If they like Lego, you might put Lego in there a lot more and that sort of thing. So you still want to offer them choice, even if you think you know what they're going to choose, because you want to offer that option to them, that ownership to the individual as well. And like I said before, I really think that these are important because they do actually acknowledge the importance of individual choice, of that autonomy and that ownership.
These are our choice boards, and as you can see, we've got different options and different cards to go with what the choice can be. Now, it's important that when we make a choice board and we're giving options, that we offer options that we are willing to do with the individual. Now, if I was giving these options to a child, I would say, do you want the sand pit, the sensory play box, or do you want me to put some music on and do some dancing? Then what I would do is I would just add it to a timer so that I know how long that they can do it for. So if they ripped this one off, or they took it off, or they pointed to it, I would pop it on here, and then I would start the timer so that they could start their activity. And then they would know when the timer goes off, it's time for that activity to finish.
Timers are super important because they give that end time. They give that it's not unending. The task isn't going to go on forever. And if you're anything like me, you give a child a task, whether it be your own child or your client or something like that, and you start doing something else, or you totally forget that, you set them up on the computer, or you set them up on the iPad, or they're watching TV, or they're playing Lego. 20 minutes passes and you're like, oh no, I forgot to get them off. So not only is a timer great for that child, it's also great for you to remind you, hey, it's time to pop them off and get them to do the next activity or the next thing they need to do. So it's always good because it gives that clear expectation. This task isn't unending. This is its end time. And it's going to remind me, this is your end time too, mum or whoever. Alrighty, so it reminds you, them and you when the task is complete. And we always use it with the preferred activity as well for that consistency and a limited reward or limited positive reinforcement. Some people don't like the word reward. Some people like the word positive reinforcement. It's the same thing, they're synonyms, that type of thing. Different options depending on a budget. So here in Australia, I looked up some different options that you have when you're looking at timers. So if you want a physical timer, you can buy these sensory ones that are great for watching. They're dripped, kind of like a lava timer. They're around $15. In our local office workshop, you can grab a sand timer of different times for $30. I think they start at 1 minute and go up to 30. There's this timer, which is the one I've got, which we just used from Kmart, which is $7. And then you're getting into the more extreme ones. So you've got the actual educational ones, which is a time tracker. This one's $70, but the reason this one's good is that it is a visual timer as well. So it starts on green. First of all, you set how long the time's going to go for, and it starts on green and it just lights up on green. And then as the timer starts to count down, rather than worrying about numbers, they can worry about the color. So as it starts to get closer, it goes to that orangey yellow light. Then when it's starting to run out of time is when it starts to go to red. When you're really running out of time, the red light starts flashing. So they do have that reminder. There's no noise to the lights. You can set a noise for when the timer goes off, but the lights don't make noise. And it's just that visual reminder, hey, this is how long you've got. Because for some kids, time is an irrelevant thing because they can't read it or they don't understand it type thing. So this is a good option on that one. And then we've got this little one that has that you can twist the timer and the numbers, and then you have that visual understanding as well. Alrighty. And then we've got the free timer, obviously that's online that you can just do, and it's just a countdown. And as the timer goes round, the timer turns to either a picture, there's picture ones, or it just goes red or black. So there's lots of different timers that you can use. And it just depends on where your budget is on that one. So that's a timer, and they are really important to be adding in. Next, we're going to look at our first and next visuals. So first and next are great for that beginning strategy to improve their engagement and task completion. So when schools or parents come to me and they say, we can't get the child to engage at all, the most important way around that is to start with a first next. So it's a non-preferred activity. So that's an activity that, they don't want to do. So that might be cleaning their room, brushing their teeth. It can be at school work, a worksheet, reading a book, whatever it is, then followed by that next preferred activity. And that's where we would add that timer onto it as well. That's a great way to get them to engage because they can see then when their preferred activity is coming. I've just got to finish this first one. Then the next one, I'm going to get my preferred activity. Okay, so we want to build that independence, that expectation on what we want them to do. And as they get better at that and they build their independence, we can extend it out to a first, next, then. And that would be 2 non-preferred followed by a preferred activity. Now, with these, I would always be offering choice to the individual as well, so that their then or their preferred activity is their chosen activity, because we're going to see better engagement when they have used that. Now, you can use a timer to set parameters for the preferred and the non-preferred activity, but it can be you're not getting your preferred activity until you finished your non-preferred activity. So your first activity needs to be finished and completed before you're getting your preferred activity. Now that depends on what the first is. So if it's brushing teeth, yeah, they're going to need to finish it to get their preferred activity. If it's reading a whole book, well, they might get halfway through it and then get their preferred activity. Obviously, you know what you expect and what you want, and throughout it you're going to extend your expectations as well further, because we want to be challenging them to grow and become more and more independent. So these do provide that building block to grow that independence by adding more tasks.
Here's our first next visual, and it comes with lots of different options for pictures and activities. So you're going to start with a non-preferred activity, moving to a preferred activity, which if applicable should be chosen by the individual. So for instance, during the holidays, you might be heading to the shops, and after the shops, your child has chosen that they would like to have some technology. We're going to incorporate a timer into the technology activity to ensure that it has a time limit on it. So I'm just going to set the timer, put their activity on visually on the timer so they can see what they've got, and then start it. This would be the same no matter where you are, whether it's at school, after school care, vacation care, grandparents, anywhere. We can incorporate these visuals to encourage engagement and completion of tasks.
So once we've done our first next and our first then next, and the child's very fluent with it and can understand and can follow through and might even be doing it independent, you might just hand it to them, they go off and they know what to do. We can move on to mini schedules. Now, mini schedules are very similar to first then next, but it's starting to get them to look at it like a timetable. So we might have 3, 4 activities on a mini schedule. And it's again building that independence and that ability to complete tasks to completion. So this is the next step on from our first next visual. And it's continuing to build our expectations and the capacity and the independence of the individual. Now, these can be used for a variety of people. It doesn't have to be a child. You might have, someone who needs tasks broken down. So, just like when we're doing a recipe, we follow the instructions on the task. These are great for doing exactly that. So you do this, then you do that, then you do this. So we can build from 3 up to 6. And once we get to around 6, we're just talking about a timetable then. And then if you wish, you don't have to, but the last task can still be that preferred activity, while the other ones are a non-preferred activity as well. Alrighty. So then we move from there onto what's a daily schedule, basically. So here we can put all the things that they're going to do for the day on there. Now, I've got 2 different ones, as you can see. So the one in brown that's on, I'm thinking your left as you look at the screen, as long as it doesn't mirror it, is just, these are the tasks we're doing today. Whereas the green one, the one on the right, is showing you we're going to do this first, then this, so they're ordered. So the child can see what's going to actually happen. Now, if you work with a child who needs visuals, you'll understand how important the structure is to that child. So we can set all the tasks for the day. And as I said, we can structure it sequentially, and it can be completed, or it can be completed in the order chosen by the individual. I need these tasks completed today. You need to clean the room, make your bed, wash the dog, feed the cat, and put your toys away. And those are the tasks you need to do. When you're finished, we can watch a movie or whatever it is. So then they can see what needs to be done. They can choose what order it's to be done in. Whereas the other one, we're going to gym, then we've got a play date, then we're going out to lunch, we're coming home to have a play, we're going to bake some cookies, and then this afternoon you can choose what you want to do. All right, it provides that clear static expectation of the tasks that need to be completed for the individual. So these are for, for any individual who requires that static information. And I would argue that, with 60% of the population being visual learners, at least 60% of the population needs those visual reminders. So these are some that we use in our home. So I've created these ones for my daughter who goes to school. So these are during the school term. She has her morning activities. So her morning activities are to eat breakfast, make her bed and clean her room, get dressed and do her hair, pack her bag and brush her teeth. That is by her bedroom. So it's in a very applicable place for the morning tasks, because most of her morning tasks are going to be happening around that area. In the afternoon, this is placed just by our garage where we drive in, and she knows as soon as she comes in, we need to unpack my bag, I'm going to have a snack, we need to do reading or homework, then we're going to have a play, and then we're going to clean up. Then it switches to dinner time, and then this one is near the dining room, because this is where most of her evening tasks are going to take place. We're going to have dinner, a bath, put on our pajamas, brush our teeth, and mummy or daddy are going to read you a story. So these help to give that consolidation and that understanding of what does my day look like. I can't control what's happening at school, but she's got a very set environment when she comes home to help reduce that stress, build that independence, and understanding of what's the expectation at home. I've got those visual reminders, and it negates the need for me to constantly be sitting on her back as well to, this is what you need to do now, this is what you need to do now. So I won't show you this video, but this is a different one you can see from the visual. So this one is the beginner one that I recommend for people who maybe haven't had visuals in their home before. So it gives that opportunity for the child to actually see the progression of their tasks. So the tasks that they need to do sit at the top. And then as they do them, they move them down to the done. So they can see the progression that they're making, the success they're having, and the next task that needs to be done. Now, if you haven't done visuals before, or you haven't followed a schedule before, a child might need this at the beginning, and then you can slowly remove it to just the one strip where you're not having to move it at all. Some kids like the movement because they feel like they're successful. Fantastic. So these are the ones where you actually do get to move the task as well. All right, I'll skip over that one. Next, our next visual is the weekly and monthly schedule. So these are great for any families that have a ridiculous amount of things on in their life. And I think most of us, if you've got kids, you're going here, there, and everywhere, and I've got this and I've got that. Having that monthly schedule helps children to know what's coming up, when am I doing things, and what's actually happening. So, being the Christmas holidays here in Australia, we've got 6 weeks of the unknown. I want my children to know what's happening when they're going to school, vacation care or daycare or wherever they're going. When are we going to have activities with mummy? When are we going to see daddy? What's happening on the weekend and that sort of thing. So it's building that stability for that child, and it reduces the uncertainty of what's coming up. Now, these are totally personalized. So you just wipe it off and you start again. You write the numbers in yourself for each month. And they're especially beneficial for any children who might have a split family where they're going to mum's house some nights and dad's house some nights. So this is a good way to visualize it for them. If they're attending before or after school care or vacation care or some sort of holiday program, that's great too. So they can see if that's coming up. Any activities they might be doing, any like excursions. If they've got numerous outside school activities like gym, swimming, ballet, soccer, football, any of those sort of things can all go on there, whether it's training or the actual game, parties and that type of thing, and regular visits with grandparents. So we have regular visits with our grandparents, so I want it to be on there so that she can understand when I'm going to go see Nanny and Poppy again. This one's the month as a quick overview, and then we can further break it down into a week by week. Now, the weekly schedule is especially good if you are doing that split family where you might have mum and dad, or grandma and dad, or whoever and mum, whatever your family makeup is, and you're switching to and from. It's good for kids to know, where am I sleeping this night? Where am I sleeping this night? That type of thing. So before and after school care again, when I'm going to school, when we're going camping, when we're having a day out, when I'm going to Nanny and Pop. So it's a great way to just break it up. And these ones come in different structures. So we've got one that just starts on Monday. They've got some that start on Sunday, because some people like to start their week on Sunday. We can break them up into the morning, the afternoon, and the late afternoon as well. So there's lots of different examples on how we can break up our week, but they are a great way for children to understand what my week is going to look like, and I can refer back to it, and helps me to prepare, be independent, and be autonomous as well. So swimming is a good example. So if they've got swimming, they might need to prepare their swimming bag. You might have a task card ready for them to go on what they need to put in their swimming bag. I've got swimming on Thursday. Today's Thursday. Let me go pack my swimming bag. So we're building that independence, that sense of ownership, that sense of autonomy for our students by doing that, or for our children by doing that as well. So those are our weekly and monthly schedules. And again, I will just skip over this video, but I will send you links after. Alrighty, one of the next ones we've got are home visuals. Now, I love these, and the reason I love these is I didn't really understand the impact these had until I used them with my own children. And the letter knowledge, the sight word building, the fact that one day she just came out and told, she goes, Mum, do you know that toilet starts with a T and ends with a T? I thought, yep, these are pretty important to have in our house. So we have them everywhere now. Fantastic to put with a picture and the written word, so they can see that they're building that sight word knowledge, they're building phoneme knowledge, they're building beginning and end sounds, they're even building blends and things like that if they're in there. So there's so much learning that can happen by this, and it builds that communication for them as well. So they're able to go to the kitchen, and when we use pictures, we can use the pictures that we have of our things, but I do think there is reason to use other things so that they're not constantly assimilating what we own to the only thing that can represent. So for instance, ovens look different in different houses, fridges look different in different houses, kitchens look different in different houses. So I try not to use this exactly the same one in these ones. However, in other things, I do use exactly the same so that they do have that consolidation for their understanding. It provides that visual reminder and that reference as well. So, oh yeah, I remember the kitchen, and that's the picture of the kitchen and that type of thing. And it builds their sight word knowledge, like I said before, and again, the phoneme, grapheme, blends, and all those sorts of things as well. So these are a great addition to any home. Task cards. Now, task cards are great because they provide that clear visual steps on how to complete a task. So this is just an example that I've popped off the internet. So washing our hands, these are the steps I need to take to follow to wash my hands. And they, you see these all the time in bathrooms nowadays, especially with COVID. Like, we've got the 20-second washing. We don't know how to wash our hands. We've obviously lived in a bubble for the last couple of years, basically. But there's merit in these for other things as well, and for lots of other things. Like making a sandwich. These are the steps you need to follow to make a sandwich. These are the steps you need to follow to unpack your bag when you get home. These are the steps you need to follow to get dressed in the morning. Depends on the child and how much scaffolding they need, but they are great, and they provide that visual with the quick, succinct instructions. So let's go to sink, water on. We're not going to say, turn the tap and turn the water on, because that's just too much information. Water on, turn the tap, put the water on. So we want to make it nice and quick and succinct for them. It's obviously that static again. So visuals are that static, and they're providing that static information for them to refer back to. And it's building that confidence and the engagement to see the task through. I've done those 4. I need to move on to my scrubbing of my hands, my rinsing of my hands, water off, and paper towel. And it can be used for any task. Now, when I say that, I really do mean any task, whether it's going to the toilet, washing your hands, making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, building a sandcastle, putting on your togs, packing your school bag. It can be used for absolutely anything. Just incorporate the visual with succinct instructions, because we're going to be building that sight word knowledge again and that understanding. And obviously, because we're making them for anything, they can be personalized. So we can put personalized pictures in there. So you can put pictures of the child doing those things, or you can put the child's possessions in those pictures as well. So it can be their school bag, it can be your kitchen, it can be your knife that they're buttering the bread with, and that type of thing. So communication is obviously a really big one for visuals, and you'll see the picture of just the communication lanyard that I keep on me that I wear. Now these, the ones that I use are Boardmaker, but there's so many different options. You can just have a visual that the child is going to know, but we must provide a way for children or for individuals to communicate with yourself and others, because if we don't, we're going to see an escalation of behavior. So a lot of the time when individuals or schools or parents get in contact with me, one of the first questions I'll ask is, what's the communication style of the child? Are they fluent in communication? Do they struggle, or are they non-communicative? And often, if they're non-communicative and there's nothing put in place, we'll start to see some behaviours come out. So we need to make sure we're providing one, visuals, but 2, just a way for children to communicate with yourself and others. So it's got to be a way that's accessible to everyone as well that can be done. We want to make it as universal as possible, as user-friendly. So lanyards are a good option, and they allow for consistency because they can just be worn around the neck. A lot of teachers wear them, a lot of support workers wear them, and it's actually allowing the individual to reply as well, because I can just go through the cards and show the person what I need from them too, if they're not understanding, if they're not comprehending what I'm actually verbally giving to them as well. Obviously, communication is about personal choice, but we must ensure consistency in whatever approach we're doing and making it appropriate for the individual that we have. Social narratives are one that have seen ins and outs. So some people see social narratives as we're trying to change the child to conform to social norms. And I think that got lost, or for me, that's not my understanding of what a social narrative is about. For me, a social narrative or a social story is about creating understanding about what is actually happening in a social situation. So it's about building that understanding and that knowledge of what's happening, not trying to change the child. So it's just saying, well, this person's doing this because of this, not saying you must do this so that this. So there's just that, I think, along the way, some social stories might have been misused, or I don't know what happened, but there has been some misunderstandings around social narratives, but they are such a useful tool, especially for children who maybe don't have that emotional recognition, especially in others. They're not understanding what this person is giving me through their body language and through the facial expressions and through the clipped tone of their voice. So I think sometimes social narratives are a very important thing that we need to implement for certain children in situations. And why I say that is because I am just about to start writing a whole bunch of social narratives. So if you do have, certain issues or certain situations that you want children to be able to understand and gain better knowledge and understanding on, then, shoot me an email, because I'll pop them on my list of the ones that I want to create. Now, when we are building a social narrative, this obviously was first done by Carol Gray. She created lots and lots of visual schedules. One thing that I found is when I use the child in the visual schedule or visual narrative, I get a lot more payback from that endeavor, because the child can see themselves making the right choice. They can see themselves in the situation. It helps them to just visualize it. So some children really struggle to even put themselves into someone else's shoes or into a situation. So we can actually show them a picture of them in the situation or in the circumstance, and it has that greater engagement for them. So we're wanting to equip them to deal with the situation. We're going to always use positive statements. We want to partner with the picture, and like I said before, we want to personalize it if possible, put the child within the story. So where possible, when we're creating social narratives, we want to include things like the body language we'll be seeing, the facial expressions we might receive, and understanding facial expressions is much harder than you expect for some children. They don't understand these parts, so it's important that we put these into social narratives so that they do have that reference. So again, the body language, the facial expressions, the eye contact, and the tone if appropriate. So if there's conversations happening, it's important for the child to understand those as well. So the structure of a social narrative should be, we're describing what's happening, so the situation, the who, what, where, and when. And then we're going to discuss what's the desired behaviour and response for the individual, and the feelings and responses of others. So helping them again to understand why we do certain things. So cleaning up, this is just a really quick, succinct one that I just created quickly. Like I said, I'm just going through it all now, creating a few. So it's fun to play with all my toys, and we've got a big mess. When I'm finished, or my mum and dad tell me to pack up, I need to put all my toys back in the correct spot. So the child is seeing them being put back, and they can see themselves in the picture. We're giving them when it needs to happen. And this will make everyone feel proud of me and keep my toys safe for the next time I want to play with them. A very quick, succinct one. Child might be having trouble putting things away. Why do we do it? Well, we want our toys to be safe and be there for us next time we want to use them. Now, like I said, these are coming soon. So these are an addition that we are working on here, that I am working on here. So if you do have some ideas that you want around social narratives, then, you know, shoot me an email. But some of the ones that I've got down at the moment is going to the shops is a huge one, going to school, visiting the dentist, at a party, when I feel, going out to dinner, at the park, when I hurt myself, if I feel sick, when someone uses mean words, having a sleepover, and going on holiday. So these are the ones at the moment, but if you've got some other pressing ones that you think are important, let me know. I'm happy to brainstorm with families and that type of thing as well. So let's revise. Visual, yes, absolutely. How to treat a sibling, absolutely. I will pop that one on, Chris. That's a great one. Thank you. Recap of visual support. So thank you for coming, but today we just looked at our visual supports that I think are important to children of any background. So we want to start with our first next. So that their first and next is basically our starting point. So it's our non-preferred and our preferred activities. So first, next. Our mini schedules is the next step on from our first and next. And then we move to our daily schedules, which is more points and more schedules along the way. We've got our weekly schedule, the monthly schedule, and the social narratives. Our social narratives help us to understand what's happening in certain situations. We want to involve children in choice, and it's so important, and it's so overlooked on how important student choice is. Break cards, timers, home visuals, task cards, and communication. So those are all the things we looked at today. And I just want to let you know that some of those are available on our website, which you should have received an email for. If you didn't, you can copy it down now. Alternatively, if you have any questions or you want to shoot me an email or you want to check out our website, make sure you follow our Facebook page, because we're constantly doing resources on there, information, blogs, and that type of thing. Otherwise, you can follow us at www.allforlearning.com.au, and my email is info@allforlearning.com.au. Well, thank you for joining me today.